The brass key hit the marble counter like a gunshot in the hush of the lobby. And in that split second, Joseph's fingers lingered just a beat too long against mine, warm, calloused from years of quiet servitude, carrying the weight of secrets he hadn't yet whispered. I yanked my hand back as if burned, my heart slamming against my ribs like it was trying to escape the cage of my chest, because in his hazel eyes, flickering under the chandelier's unforgiving glow, I saw my own unraveling reflected back. A man teetering on the edge of everything he'd built, ready to leap into the void. "Room 1408, he said, voice low and steady like the rumble of a subway train far below. But his gaze held mine hostage, daring me to stay, to see him, to pretend this wasn't the moment my carefully curated life cracked wide open. I was Matthew Hale, 32. Corporate climber from the sterile suburbs of Connecticut, fleeing a boardroom betrayal that had left me penniless and purposeless. My best friend, my lover of 8 years, had sold me out for a corner office and a fat bonus, his goodbye text arriving mid-flight like a digital guillotine. New York City was supposed to be my reset button. Check into the Grand Plaza on 42nd Street, lick my wounds in anonymity, and plot my comeback over room service bourbon. But Joseph Ruiz, the concierge with the easy smile that didn't quite reach his eyes, had other plans. Or maybe fate did. Either way, as I pocketed that key and turned toward the gilded elevators, I felt the pull of him like gravity shifting under my feet, irresistible, inevitable, and utterly terrifying. The elevator doors whispered shut behind me, sealing me in with the scent of polished brass and my own regret. I leaned against the mirrored wall, watching my reflection fragment, hollow cheeks from skipped meals, stubble shadowing a jaw clenched too tight, blue eyes dulled by the kind of ache that whiskey couldn't touch. Down in the lobby, Joseph was already moving on, handing a map to a harried tourist, his laugh a practiced melody that masked the tremor I'd glimpsed in his hand. Who was he? Really? A fixture in this revolving door of transience? Or something more, a survivor like me, piecing together a life from stolen glances and midnight confessions? Room 1408 was a sanctuary of muted luxury. King bed draped in crisp white linens, floor-to-ceiling windows framing the electric vein of Broadway pulsing below. I collapsed onto the mattress, the city lights bleeding through the curtains like accusations. My phone buzzed, another voicemail from Ethan, my ex. His voice oily with false remorse. "Maddie, come on. It wasn't like that. We can fix this. Call me. Delete. Block." The silence rushed in, thick and accusatory, and for the first time in years, I let myself feel it all. The sting of betrayal, the hollow echo of a love that had been more transaction than tenderness. Ethan had known I was gay since college, had paraded our relationship like a trophy at firm parties. But when the merger talks heated up, he traded my heart for a signature on a dotted line. "It's business, babe," he'd said over dinner that last night, his fork scraping the plate like nails on a chalkboard. Business. As if my soul wasn't collateral. Sleep evaded me, the city's hum seeping through the walls like a siren's call. By 2 a.m., I was pacing, bourbon bottle half empty on the nightstand, when a soft knock shattered the quiet. I froze, pulse thundering. Who the hell? Peering through the peephole, I saw him, Joseph, in a plain black tee that hugged his lean frame, hair tousled as if he'd run his hands through it one too many times, holding a complimentary bottle of scotch like an olive branch. "Mr. Hale, it's Joseph from the front desk." Noticed you looked like you could use this. No charge. His voice was muffled through the door, but the hesitation in it hooked me deeper than any line Ethan had ever spun. I cracked the door, the cool air from the hallway brushing my bare chest. I'd stripped down to boxers in some futile bid for comfort. Joseph's eyes flicked down, then up, a flush creeping under his olive skin. "Rough night?" he asked, extending the bottle, our fingers brushing again. This time, I didn't pull away. The contact lingered, a spark jumping the gap between us. And in that suspended breath, I saw it, the raw hunger in his gaze, mirrored by my own. "Yeah," I admitted, voice rough as sandpaper. "You could say that." He didn't leave. Instead, he leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed like he was guarding secrets too heavy to carry alone. "New York has a way of stripping you bare. What's your poison, ex-wife? Bad deal? Or just the city chewing you up?" I laughed, a bitter bark that surprised us both. "Ex-lover. Male. He traded me for a promotion." "You?" Joseph's smile faltered, something dark flashing in his eyes. "Family. The kind that pretends you're invisible until they need something fixed." He paused, glancing down the hall as if expecting interruption. "Mind if I join you? Off the clock. Promise I won't bite." Against every instinct screaming caution, against the fresh scar of Ethan's knife, I stepped aside. "Be my guest." We settled on the leather armchair by the window, the scotch burning a path down my throat, loosening the knots I'd tied around my chest. Joseph poured generously, his movements precise, like he'd rehearsed this ritual 1,000 times in his mind. He was 30, he told me over the first glass, born in the Bronx to Puerto Rican parents who'd fled the island storms for America's promise, only to find concrete jungles and closed doors. Concierge by day, aspiring playwright by night, scribbling scenes in a battered notebook hidden behind the desk. "This place," he gestured vaguely at the hotel's opulence, "it's all facade. Guests check in with their armor on, check out lighter but no less broken. Me? I just hand out the keys and hope one day someone hands me back a piece of my own." I nodded, the alcohol blurring the edges of my defenses. "Matthew. Just Matthew now. Lost my job, my apartment, everything. Flew in from Hartford this morning with a carry-on and a grudge." The words tumbled out, unbidden, how Ethan and I had met at a Yale mixer, how we'd built a life of quiet domesticity amid the firm's cutthroat world, how I'd ignored the signs, the late nights, the averted eyes, the way his touch had grown perfunctory. He said I was too emotional for the big leagues. Like loving someone hard makes you weak. Joseph's hand found my knee then, a tentative anchor in the storm. "Loving hard isn't weakness, Matthew. It's the only thing that keeps us human in a city that devours the soft parts." His thumb traced a slow circle, igniting nerves I thought Ethan had numbed. Our eyes locked, the air thickening with unspoken permission, and when he leaned in, I met him halfway, the kiss tentative at first, then fierce, like two men starved for absolution. We didn't make it to the bed. The carpet was rough against my back, Joseph's weight a welcome press as clothes shed like old skin. His body was a map of quiet strength, lean muscles from hauling luggage carts, a tattoo of a quill pen snaking across his ribs, inked in a Greenwich Village parlor on a whim after his father's homophobic tirade had shattered their fragile peace. "He called me an abomination," Joseph murmured against my neck, his breath hot and ragged. "Kicked me out at 19. Said blood didn't mean family if it ran queer. I traced the ink with my lips, tasting salt and story, my hands mapping the scars Ethan had left invisible on me. Doubts, insecurities, the fear that I was unlovable in my entirety. That night blurred into a haze of tangled limbs and whispered truths. The city lights our only witness. For the first time since the fall, I felt seen not as the polished executive, but as the man beneath, flawed and fierce. Joseph fell asleep curled against me, his heartbeat a steady drum against my chest, and as dawn crept in, painting the room in bruised purples, I dared to hope. Maybe this was the key I'd been searching for all along. But hope in New York is a fragile thing, easily shattered by the morning light. The alarm on my phone jolted me awake at 9 a.m., a cruel reminder of the deposition I'd scheduled with a headhunter downtown. My Hail Mary for salvaging some dignity from the wreckage. Joseph's side of the bed was empty, the sheets cool, but a scribbled note on hotel stationery lay on the pillow. Coffee's brewing downstairs. Don't ghost me, Matthew. Jay. A smile tugged at my lips despite the hangover pounding like a jackhammer. For a man who'd just been handed his heart on a platter, this felt dangerously like possibility. I showered quickly, the hot water sluicing away the night's evidence but not the ache of connection. Dressed in my last clean button-down and slacks, I descended to the lobby, where Joseph manned the desk in his crisp uniform, fielding a guest's complaint about room service with the grace of a tightrope walker. Our eyes met across the marble expanse, a secret spark leaping the distance, and he mouthed, "Booth by the Palm?" I nodded, heart stuttering like a teenager's. The hotel cafe was a sunlit nook of velvet booths and the rich aroma of Ethiopian roast. Joseph slipped in 10 minutes later, shedding his vest like a second skin, his knee brushing mine under the table as he slid into the seat. "Black, 2 sugars?" he guessed, pushing a steaming mug my way. "Psychic now?" I teased, but the warmth in his gaze made my chest tighten. "Observant. You strike me as a man who takes it straight but needs the sweet to cut the edge." He stirred his own cup absently, the spoon clinking like a metronome to our budding rhythm. We talked for an hour easy, unhurried, about everything and nothing. His unfinished play about a queer immigrant chasing dreams in the shadows of skyscrapers, my abandoned novel from law school days, the way the Hudson smelled like freedom on foggy mornings. Laughter came freely, a balm to wounds still raw, and when his hand covered mine across the table, thumb stroking my knuckles, I didn't flinch. Instead, I turned my palm up, lacing our fingers, the simple act feeling like defiance against the world that had tried to break us both. But New York doesn't let you linger in idles. My phone buzzed, the headhunter, confirming our 11 a.m. at a midtown cafe. "Duty calls," I said, reluctance heavy in my voice. Joseph's grip tightened fractionally. "Tonight, my shift ends at 8. There's a speakeasy off Bleecker, hidden door, killer jazz. Let me show you the city that doesn't bite back." "It's a date," I replied, the word hanging between us like a vow. As I stood, he rose too, pulling me into a quick, fierce hug that pressed his lips to my temple. "Be safe out there, Matthew Hale. And remember, you're not broken. You're just..." Mid-story, the headhunter's office was a glass-box purgatory overlooking Bryant Park, where suited drones hustled like ants in a colony. Karen was all sharp Bob and sharper questions. "So, Hale, embezzlement scandal? That's a tough sell. But your negotiation skills." We could spin it as strategic repositioning. I nodded through the spin, but my mind wandered to Joseph's laugh, the way his eyes crinkled like parentheses around joy. By the end, she dangled a temp gig at a boutique firm, nothing glamorous, but a foot in the door. "Start Monday?" she asked. "Yeah," I said, already calculating how to weave Joseph into the chaos. "Yeah, I can do that." The afternoon blurred into errands. A laundromat in Hell's Kitchen that smelled of detergent and desperation, a bodega run for razor blades and hope. By evening, the city thrummed with pre-theater energy, yellow cabs honking symphonies to the pulse of neon. I met Joseph at the hotel's revolving doors, him in faded jeans and a leather jacket that smelled of sandalwood and street, me in a fresh shirt that hid the tremor in my hands. The speakeasy was a basement laid down a graffiti alley, password-granted entry revealing velvet walls and a saxophonist's wail that vibrated through my bones. We claimed a corner booth, cocktails arriving unbidden, his a smoky mezcal, mine a gin fizz sharp as anticipation. The jazz wove around us like smoke, and as the night deepened, so did the confessions. Joseph spoke of his sister, Maria, the only family who'd stuck, a nurse in Queens, smuggling him tamales and acceptance on holidays. "She says I'm too hard on myself," he admitted, tracing the rim of his glass. "Like forgiving Dad would make me less." Me, I reached for his hand, the music swelling like a heartbeat. Forgiveness isn't erasure. It's just space. For this, I gestured between us, the air charged with the unsaid. Whatever this was, it was real, raw, and racing toward something profound. The kiss that followed was slower than the night's frenzy, deliberate, his lips tasting of lime and longing. We spilled out onto the street at midnight, arms linked, the village's cobblestones slick underfoot from a drizzle that had kissed the air clean. Joseph's apartment was a walk-up in the East Village, 3rd floor, creaky stairs, a studio crammed with bookshelves groaning under scripts and dog-eared Lorca. "Home sweet chaos," he said, flicking on a lamp that bathed the room in amber. We made love again, this time with the leisure of familiarity, exploring each other like cartographers charting unclaimed territory. His body arched under mine, gasps punctuating the rain's tattoo on the fire escape, and in the afterglow, tangled in sheets that smelled of him, I whispered, "This scares me, Joseph." "You scare me, in the best way." He propped on an elbow, tracing my collarbone. "Good. Means it's worth it." Sleep came easy then, his arm an anchor across my waist. But dreams stirred uneasy, Ethan's face morphing into Joseph's, betrayal's shadow lengthening. Sunday dawned gray and restless. I woke to the sizzle of eggs in a cast-iron skillet, Joseph humming an old salsa tune as he plated breakfast on a wobbly card table. "Fuel for the fire," he said, sliding a fork my way. We ate cross-legged on the floor, knees bumping, talking futures, my temp job, his audition callback for an off-Broadway understudy. "What if we made this official?" he ventured, vulnerability cracking his voice. "Not labels, just us against the grind." My heart swelled, but caution whispered, "I'd like that. More than like." We sealed it with coffee-sweet kisses. But as I dressed for a solo walk through Central Park, to clear my head, to breathe, I felt the first fracture. A text from an unknown number. "Matthew? It's Liam, Ethan's brother. He mentioned you might be in town. Coffee? For old times." Liam, the golden boy, straight as an arrow, but always oddly protective of me. The fag brother-in-law, he'd half-jokingly called me at holidays. I deleted it, but unease lingered like fog. That evening, back at Joseph's, the fracture widened. His phone rang as we lounged on the couch, a rom-com flickering ignored on the TV. He glanced at the screen, face tightening. "Maria. Give me a sec." He stepped onto the fire escape, voice low and urgent. "No. Tell him I'm done bailing him out." "Yeah. I know it's blood, but blood doesn't excuse this shit." He returned pale, forcing a smile. "Family drama. Dad's in trouble again. Debts. The usual. Maria wants me to wire money I don't have." I pulled him close, but his tension hummed like a live wire. "You don't have to carry it alone." His laugh was hollow. Says the man who just crash-landed in my life. We made love fiercely that night, reclaiming ground, but the seeds of doubt had taken root. Mine in Ethan's ghost, his in the pull of obligation. Monday came too soon. My temp desk a cubicle in a Soho loft, transcribing depositions for faceless suits. The work was mindless, a buffer against the thrill of texts from Joseph. "Miss your face already." Dinner at mine, but at lunch, scrolling news on my phone, a headline gut-punched me: Hartford firm merger fallout. Insider trading allegations rock elite partnership. My name was there, smeared in digital ink. Ethan's doing, no doubt, pinning the blame to save his skin. Calls flooded in. Reporters, old colleagues, venomous voicemails. Traitor, queer scam artist. I bolted to the bathroom, retching into the sink, the mirror reflecting a man unmoored. Joseph was my lifeline. I texted him blindly, "Bad day. Need you." His reply, "On my way." 6 p.m. sharp. He arrived at the hotel Neutral Ground, with takeout Thai and a playlist of soulful indie that filled the room like sunlight. We ate on the bed, cross-legged, his stories of lobby eccentrics drawing laughs from my depths. "This one Saudi prince," he said, eyes dancing, tipped me a Rolex for smuggling in contraband caviar. I pawned it for a month's rent. "You're a rogue," I murmured, pulling him down, the food forgotten. Lovemaking turned tender, his hands mapping my insecurities like Braille, whispering, "You're gold, Matthew. Don't let them tarnish you." But as we drifted off, his phone lit up again. "Maria," insistent. He silenced it, but the interruption lingered, a shadow in our haven. Weeks bled into a rhythm that felt dangerously like home. Mornings tangled in Joseph's sheets before my dawn train to Soho. Evenings reclaiming each other in stolen hours. Rooftop picnics under starless skies. Walks along the High Line where the city's pulse synced with ours. He read me scenes from his play, voice cracking on the protagonist's coming-out monologue, a thinly veiled echo of his own silenced youth. I shared fragments of my novel, the queer anti-hero navigating corporate closets, his feedback sharpening my voice like a whetstone. "You're a natural," he'd say, kissing ink stains from my fingers. "Publish that shit. Let the world see the man I do." Love crept in unannounced, a quiet bloom amid the concrete. I said it first, 3 weeks in, over lukewarm diner coffee at 3 a.m., his head on my shoulder as we watched the all-night crowd shuffle by. "I love you, Joseph Ruiz." Keys and all, he stilled, then tilted my chin, eyes fierce and wet. "Took you long enough, Hale. Love you back, fiercely, foolishly, forever. But love in the margins is a fragile construct. tested by the world's grind. My temp gig stretched to permanent, a junior associate slot that demanded 80-hour weeks and schmoozing at galas where whispers followed me like smoke. That's the guy from the scandal. Ethan, ever the serpent, had lawyered up, countersuing for emotional distress in a tabloid-fueled circus that painted me as the villain. Reporters camped outside the hotel some days, forcing Joseph to smuggle me in through service entrances, his arm a shield against the flashbulbs. "You're handling it like a champ," he'd murmur, drawing me baths scented with pilfered hotel lavender, his massages unraveling the knots of my days. But I saw the toll. Shadows under his eyes from double shifts, his notebook gathering dust as auditions dried up. "Focus on you," I'd urge, but guilt gnawed. Had I become another burden, like his father's debts? Then came the betrayal, sharp as shattered glass. It was a Thursday in late October, the air crisp with fallen leaves and unspoken fears. I'd wrapped early, surprising Joseph at the hotel with tickets to a Broadway matinee, his favorite, a revival of Angels in America that mirrored our fractured worlds. But as I approached the desk, bouquet of sunflowers hidden behind my back, I froze. There, leaning close, was a man, mid-40s, silver fox handsome in a tailored suit, his hand on Joseph's wrist in a grip too intimate for colleagues. "Joey, come on," the man cajoled, voice smooth as aged whiskey. "One night. For old times. You know you miss it." Joseph's face was a mask of polite steel, but his eyes, God, his eyes, flinched with old pain. "Mr. Hargrove, that's not happening. Ever. Now, if you'll excuse me, Hargrove." Victor Hargrove, the hotel chain's regional VP, a name whispered in staff rooms like a curse. Joseph's ex. I'd pieced together from late-night murmurs, the older mentor who'd seduced him fresh out of community college, promising the world before discarding him for discretion's sake. "He made me feel like a phase," Joseph had confessed once, voice small. "A dirty secret in a penthouse suite. I should have waited, trusted, but betrayal's echo in my veins screamed louder. I turned on my heel, sunflowers crushed in my fist, storming back to the street where cabs blurred through tears. My phone stayed silent as I rode the subway to his apartment. Our apartment, in my heart, unlocking with the spare key he'd given me 2 weeks prior. The space felt accusatory now, our photos thumbtacked to the fridge, his script notes scrawled on my legal pads. Paste, heart a war drum, until the door creaked open hours later. "Matthew," Joseph's voice was exhaustion laced with alarm. He dropped his bag, crossing the room in 3 strides. "What happened? You look like hell." I whirled, the tickets fluttering to the floor like fallen soldiers. "Hargrove. At the desk. Touching you like he owns you. Is that what this is? Another rich asshole's plaything?" His face crumpled, then hardened. "You saw that? It's nothing." He cornered me, same as always. Pushing boundaries because he can. He reached for me, but I recoiled, the motion slicing us both. "Nothing?" You flinched. "Joseph. Like you wanted it. Or at least remembered it fondly." The words were venom, born of my own scars, Ethan's boardroom kiss-off replaying in toxic loops. He recoiled as if slapped. "How dare you? After everything, after I held you through your ex's shitshow, after I chose you over easy outs." His voice broke, fists clenching. "Victor's poison, Matthew. He took my virginity, my dreams, left me scraping by. But you're the first real thing I've had. And you're throwing it away on shadows. The fight escalated. Words as weapons. My accusations of lingering loyalty. His fury at my distrust. You think love's a contract? He shouted, voice echoing off the brick walls. Sign here. No fine print? It's messy. It's risk. And you're running because it's safer than staying. I grabbed my coat, the door slamming like a guillotine. Maybe I am. Maybe we're both too broken for this. The night swallowed me whole, bars in the Bowery. Shots that burned but didn't numb. Strangers' glances that felt like pity. By 4 a.m., I was back at the hotel. Room 1408, a tomb of regret. Joseph's texts piled up. Come home. I'm sorry. Don't do this. I powered off, curling into the sheets that still smelled of us. Sobs racking my frame until dawn. Friday blurred into numbness. Work a haze of emails and averted eyes. The scandal's tentacles reaching deeper with a leaked email chain fingering me as the leak. Karen called at noon. They're dropping you, Matthew. Too hot. Unemployed again. Adrift in a city that chewed dreams like gum. I avoided Joseph's calls, holing up in the room, ordering meals I didn't eat. But Saturday night, a knock insistent, familiar. Through the peephole. Not Joseph, but Liam, Ethan's brother, rain-slicked and earnest, holding a six-pack like contrition. Maddie, open up. Please. His voice cracked, blue eyes so like Ethan's, yet softer, pleading. Against judgment, I did. He entered like a ghost, setting the beer on the nightstand. Heard about the countersuit. This bullshit. Ethan's cornered, lashing out. I came to New York for a conference. Figured. You might need an ally. Ally. The word twisted, laced with old affections. Liam's drunken confessions at family Thanksgivings, his hand lingering on my shoulder, the way he'd text check-ins when Ethan ghosted. Why now? I asked, sinking onto the bed. Because I see you, Matthew. Always have. He sat beside me, close enough for his cologne to stir memories. Clean, citrus, safe. One beer led to two. Words spilling, his own divorce, the closet he'd cracked open last year. Therapy sessions that unearthed feelings for me he'd buried under bro-code loyalty. Ethan knew. Used it to keep me quiet. But I'm done. His hand on my thigh was tentative. A question. Exhausted, aching for absolution, I leaned in, the kiss desperate, a balm to the void Joseph had left. We tumbled together, clothes shedding in frantic pulls. Liam's body familiar yet foreign, broader than Joseph's lean grace, his touches reverent where Joseph's had been fire. It was release, not redemption, sex as exorcism, chasing ghosts with sweat and sighs. After, tangled in regret's sheets, Liam murmured, this could be us, Maddie. Real. No scandals, no drama, but as he slept, Joseph's note from that first night resurfaced from my wallet. Mid-story, this wasn't a chapter. It was a detour, a betrayal born of pain. Morning light found me slipping free, leaving Liam a scribbled, I'm sorry on hotel pad. I dressed in the bathroom, mirror mocking my hollow reflection, and headed to Joseph's, to fight for the man who'd handed me not just a key, but his fractured heart. The walk was purgatory. Avenues slick with yesterday's rain, my steps heavy with shame. At his building, buzzed up by a groggy neighbor, I climbed the stairs, knocking with a fist that trembled. Silence. Then, the door cracked, Joseph's face ashen, eyes red-rimmed from tears or rage or both. "You," he breathed, voice ablade. "After radio silence, you show up? What? Slumming it with the help." I recoiled. "How?" "Maria saw you. With him. Liam fucking whatever his name. At the hotel bar last night." His laugh was shards. Word travels in this city. The truth crashed down. Maria, working ER shift nearby, spotting my indiscretion through lobby windows. Betrayal's boomerang, swift and merciless. "It was a mistake," I choked. "One night. To forget." "Forget me?" He stepped back, door widening to reveal chaos. Scripts torn, coffee mugs shattered. "You think that's what this is? Forgetting? I gave you everything. Matthew, my trust, my home, my goddamn soul. And you run to his brother? Ethan's shadow puppet." Tears streaked his face, mirroring mine. "Joseph, please. I love you. This, it doesn't erase that. Love." He spat the word. "Love doesn't fuck around for solace. It fights. It stays." His voice cracked, fists balling at his sides. "Get out. Before I say something we can't unsay." The door slammed, the lock clicking like finality. I slid down the wall in the hall, sobs echoing in the stairwell, the city indifferent overhead. November's chill seeped into my bones as I wandered the streets, a ghost in my own life, unemployed, unloved, untethered. The hotel room became my exile, days blurring into nights of takeout containers and muted TV static. The city's holiday lights mocking my darkness through the windows. Ethan's lawsuit dragged on, depositions that dissected our life like a cadaver. Intimate emails read aloud in sterile conference rooms, his lawyer's smirk as he twisted my affections into ammunition. "Mr. Hale, isn't it true you used emotional manipulation to gain leverage?" "No," I'd whisper to myself, but the doubt festered, a cancer fed by isolation. Joseph's silence was the cruelest cut. No texts, no chance encounters at the desk when I slunk through lobbies like a thief. I'd catch glimpses of him from afar, laughing with a bellhop, his smile a armor I no longer pierced. Each one knife deeper, regret a constant companion. Liam called twice, voice hopeful then hurt. "What happened? Maddie, we had something." I blocked him, the act feeling like severing a limb, necessary, but bloody. Rock bottom came mid-month. A eviction notice from the hotel's billing department. Extended stay surcharge unpaid. Penniless after legal fees. I packed my duffel with the essentials. Clothes, laptop, Joseph's forgotten hoodie that still carried his scent, and checked out at dawn, avoiding the front desk like plague. The streets welcomed me with open arms. A shelter in Chelsea for queer youth. Ironically, where I bunked on a cot amid stories that echoed mine. Rejections, reinventions, resilient hearts. There, in fluorescent-lit group circles, I began to unpack the therapy sessions pro bono, the journal entries scrawled in margins of legal pads. Betrayal isn't a one-way street. The counselor, a wiry ex-Marine named Theo, said one evening, "You gave as good as you got, Matthew. Own it, then let it go. Forgiveness starts inward." His words haunted me as Thanksgiving loomed, the city decked in pilgrim hats and faux cheer. Maria reached out via a mutual contact, a tentative email. "Joseph's a mess. Won't talk about you, but he's hurting." Thinks he failed you. Failed me? The irony burned. I drafted replies, deleted them, until impulse won. A care package to Joseph's building, anonymous, his favorite empanadas from the Bronx spot, a dog-eared copy of The Normal Heart with a post-it, mid-story, remember, keep writing. A ghost. No response, but hope flickered, fragile as a match in wind. Work trickled in, freelance paralegal gigs via Theo's network. Enough for a sublet in Washington Heights, a cramped walk-up with Hudson views that whispered of new beginnings. Christmas approached, snow dusting the parks like powdered sugar on wounds, and with it, the climax I'd unwittingly courted. It erupted on a Friday night, Joseph's play reading at a tiny theater row black box. I'd seen the flyer in a coffee shop, heart seizing at his name in the credits. Shadows on the Plaza, a queer odyssey. I bought a ticket under a pseudonym, slipping into the back row amid a crowd of artsy types, the house lights dimming like conspirators. The script was raw genius, a concierge's tale of hidden loves and hollow luxuries, the protagonist a mirror of Joseph, fierce, flawed, forever chasing light in lobby shadows. As the lead delivered Joseph's lines, voice breaking on, I handed him the key, not knowing I'd given him my cage. Tears streamed silent down my face. This was us, immortalized in ink and stage, our love a drama too potent for erasure. Intermission found me fleeing to the alley, breath ragged, when the stage door banged open. Joseph emerged, script clutched like a shield, spotting me in the sodium glow. Matthew. His voice was thunder wrapped in silk, eyes wild with shock and something fiercer, longing. I had to see. I choked, stepping forward, snowflakes melting on my lashes. It's brilliant. You're brilliant. And I'm so damn sorry for doubting, for running, for breaking what we built. He laughed, a jagged sound, closing the distance until we were inches apart, breaths mingling in the cold. You think sorry fixes this? You gutted me, man. Left me questioning every touch, every word, but his hand rose, cupping my jaw, thumb brushing my lip, a touch that ignited the embers we'd banked. It doesn't fix, I admitted, voice raw. But it starts. I was scared of losing you like I lost everything else. Liam was a panic, a stupid grasp at normalcy. But you're the chaos I crave. The story worth the scars. The alley echoed with our confessions, words tumbling like avalanche. His guilt over Hargrove's shadow, how he'd almost caved once for a promotion, hating himself for the temptation. My spiral into self-sabotage, therapy's hard truths about abandonment's grip. I love you still, he whispered, forehead to mine. But trust? That's earned in the rebuild. Then let me earn it, I begged, pulling him into the kiss that sealed our armistice. Desperate, devouring, tasting of salt and second chances. Snow swirled around us, the city a silent confetti, as we clung like survivors to flotsam. We tumbled back to my sublet that night, the sex a reclamation. Slow, sacred, hands relearning paths once trod in haste. No more running, he murmured against my skin, his body a vow arched beneath mine. Dawn found us entwined, the Hudson glittering like promise beyond the frost-laced panes. But resolutions are illusions in dramas like ours. The true climax brewed in the wings, Victor Hargrove's shadow lengthening. A week into our fragile thaw, holiday lights twinkling in Joseph's apartment as we decorated a scavenged tree with paper cranes. He got the call. Promotion to assistant manager. Hargrove's pet project. Strings attached, unspoken but screaming. He says it's merit, Joseph confided over eggnog, tension coiling his shoulders. But I know better. One dinner, he implies. Network. Bullshit. Rage ignited in my gut. Don't. We're stronger than his games. Joseph's eyes darkened. And if I say yes? For us, for rent? For your legal bills stacking up? The argument reignited old fires. My plea for integrity. His defense of survival. You think love pays the coned bill? He snapped. This city's a beast. Matthew. Sometimes you feed it or it eats you. I stormed out into the sleet, heart pounding, only to return hours later, soaked and humbled. You're right. Fight dirty if you must. But not alone. We forged a plan over midnight takeout. Record the dinner, leverage for his exit if needed, turn poison to power. New Year's Eve dawned brittle. The dinner set at Hargrove's Midtown penthouse, a glittering cage of skyline views and crystal flutes. Joseph went wired, hidden mic in his cufflink. My anxious texts his talisman. You're unbreakable. Come back to me. I paced my sublet, champagne untouched, until the buzzer shrilled at 11 p.m. He burst in, face thunderous, yanking off his tie like a noose. Bastard cornered me, offered the job for everything. Said you'd drag me down, some phase he'd indulge. He thrust his phone at me, audio file damning. Hargrove's slurred propositions, Joseph's firm rebukes. You walked, I breathed, pulling him close. Damn right. Told him to shove it. I'm done being anyone's secret. Triumph laced his voice, but exhaustion shadowed it. We counted down to midnight on the fire escape, lips crashing at the stroke of 12, fireworks blooming over the river like our rebirth. Yet betrayal's final twist lurked. Ethan's case crumbled days later. Liam's testimony, sworn affidavit exposing his brother's fraud, tipping the scales. Couldn't let him destroy you, Liam wrote in a final email. Be happy, Maddie. You deserve it. Absolution. Bittersweet. Spring unfurled in hesitant greens as our rebuild took root. Joseph's play found a director at a fringe fest, rehearsals filling his nights with purpose. My freelance work bloomed into a boutique firm's offer. Ethical, queer-friendly, a corner office with a view of the life I'd reclaimed. We moved into a one-bedroom in Harlem, sunlight streaming through bay windows onto floors strewn with scripts and case files, our mornings a symphony of coffee and kisses. But humanism demands scars, not seamless heels. Joseph's father surfaced in April, a gaunt figure on our stoop released from debtor's prison, eyes hollowed by regret. Mijo, he rasped, Spanish thick with disuse. I was wrong. About everything. The confrontation spilled into the street. Joseph's rage a torrent. You broke me. Papa. Called me dead to you. My hand on his back the only anchor. Forgiveness didn't come easy. It came in fits. Over shared eras con Gandals at Maria's. Halting talks that peeled back layers of pain. You're braver than me, I told him one night, as he sketched revisions by lamplight, his father's photo now framed on the mantel, not absolution, but acknowledgement. He looked up, smile soft. We both are. Together, the climax crested in June. Joseph's opening night at a modest off-Broadway house in the Village, house full, critics in the seats. Our story laid bare under hot lights. I sat front row, heart in my throat as he took the stage. not as actor but playwright. His voice narrating the concierge's odyssey. Betrayal's sting, love's fierce redemption, the humanistic grind of simply enduring. The final line, he handed me the key, and I unlocked us both. Drew gasps, applause thundering like rain on tin. Backstage, amid flowers and champagne toasts, Joseph found me in the wings, pulling me into a kiss that tasted of victory and forever. "We did it," he whispered, forehead to mine. Mid-story no more, but drama's echo lingered. A week later, as we strolled the mall in Central Park, cherry blossoms shedding like confetti, my phone buzzed. Ethan, unblocked in a moment of weakness. His voicemail a broken plea. "I'm done, Maddie. Lost the firm, the apartment. Seeing you happy. It wrecked me. I'm sorry. Truly." No reply needed. I deleted, turning to Joseph with a grin. Ghosts don't haunt the living. Summer deepened our roots. Weekends at Fire Island beaches, where we danced shirtless under bonfires, bodies free in the queer haven. Lazy Sundays debating plot twists over rooftop BBQs, his hand in mine a constant. Betrayal's lessons wove through us, trust as daily choice, vulnerability as strength. When Hargrove's hotel chain sued over the defamatory play, we fought back with lawyers pro bono from my firm, turning the spotlight on his predation, a quiet win that funded Joseph's next script. Fall brought full circle. My novel query landed an agent, the manuscript a tapestry of our chaos, titled Key to the Cage, dedicated for J, who unlocked the man I was afraid to be. Launch party at a Soho bookstore. Joseph beaming beside me, his arm a proud loop around my waist as readers queued for signatures. Yet the humanistic core pulsed in quieter beats. Volunteering at the shelter where I'd landed, sharing stories with wide-eyed kids. Joseph's reconciliation deepening, his father attending a matinee, tears unspoken but shared. Life wasn't fairy tale, no tidy bows, but a mosaic of fractures mended with gold, kintsugi hearts beating in tandem. One crisp November eve, a year to the day since that brass key changed everything, we returned to the Grand Plaza, not as guest and concierge, but as equals. The lobby gleamed unchanged, but we were transformed. Joseph in a blazer over his tattooed chest, me in jeans that spoke of ease. At the desk, a new face smiled, wide-eyed, eager. Checking in, Joseph leaned close, slipping the newcomer a wink. "Make it memorable," he murmured, then turned to me, hand extended. Room for two. We took the elevator to the roof terrace. City sprawled like a lover below, lights winking in complicity. There, under a canopy of stars smudged by light pollution, he dropped to one knee, not with a ring, but his notebook, open to a fresh page. "Marry me, Matthew Hale?" Not in papers or priesthoods, but in this our story, written daily, till the end. Tears blurred the ink as I pulled him up, our yes a kiss that sealed eternities. Forever, I breathed, the word a vow against the wind. New York hummed on, indifferent to our triumph. But in that moment, we were its beating heart, two men who'd traded cages for keys, betrayals for bonds, finding in each other the humanism that redeems. Love not as escape, but as the brave, messy art of staying. And nothing, truly nothing, would ever be the same.